As I said before, I decided on my first 5-year plan on my 34th birthday anniversary. I calculated that it would cost me about £1,400 to study for 3 years in the United Kingdom. I had no doubt that if all went well, I could make this amount of money before the end of the first quinquennial period. That's the first 5 years. But it occurred to me that I might shorten the period of waiting by raising a loan. And so I wrote the letter reproduced below to a wealthy Nigerian. How many of you have heard of the letter that Papa wrote to Chief Odutola Odutola? How many people have heard about that letter? Let me just in the comment section. Let's have some interactions. How many of you have heard of the letter that Papa wrote to Chief Adeola Odutola, the Ogbeni Oja of Ijebu? The funny thing about life is this. I'll go back to this book very soon. The funny thing about life is this. In 1951, during the electioneering period, the same Adeola Odutola won as an independent candidate in Ijebu division, and then joined Action Group, the party that Awo founded. He didn't help Awo at the time, by the way, just to be clear. Spoiler alert, he didn't help Awo. Awo wrote this fantastic letter, but he didn't help Awo. But less than 10 years later, that man would be a member of Awo's party. Let's read the letter together. He regretted his failure to help. To be honest, person will go help you, no go stress you. But I like the tone of things, because it wasn't also like, oh, I can never work with you because you did not help me. You become this tree with branches and that can provide shade for others. I think that's the beauty of being blessed, to be honest. And at that point, it's not going to matter if certain people helped or not. Again, we're reading these things. Hopefully, we're all learning something that we can apply in our own lives. All right, let's get into it. Let's go back just a little bit. It says, as I said before, I decided on my first 5-year plan on my 34th birthday anniversary. I calculated that it would cost me £1,400 to study for 3 years in the United Kingdom. I had no doubt that if all went well, I could make this amount of money before the end of the first quinquennial period. But it occurred to me that I might shorten the period of waiting by raising a loan. And so I wrote a letter reproduced below to a wealthy Nigerian who is even wealthier now than he was then. He and I are today good friends, but both of us have been discreet enough not to refer to the episode of this letter in any of our countless conversations and chats. He fights shy of it, I believe, and it is not my intention to embarrass him. I am reproducing this letter in full, first because it is to me of historic importance. Second, because it is a candid portrayal of certain aspects of my innate character. And third, because it contains information which has so far not been given, but which I believe would interest those who read. Are you ready? All right, so let's read the letter. Dear Mr. I didn't write it there. I'm telling you right now, the blank spaces to be filled with Adeola Odutola. I think it will be an exceeding saving of time and more business-like if I avoid all sweet preliminaries and go straight into the object of this letter and say that I am writing to ask you to be good enough to lend me a sum of £1,400, free of interest for 12 years. It is a staggering figure. More staggering indeed does it become when it is realized that I, who am asking for this loan, have nothing in all the world to give as a security for this money, excepting my good faith and my brains, which again are of value only so long as I continue to breathe the breath of life. Nevertheless, I here proceed to outline in brief why I want this big loan from you. And I hope you will be kind enough to sacrifice some time to go through what I have to say, even though in the end you might find yourself unable to do me this good favor. I'll take that again. And I hope you will be kind enough to sacrifice some time to go through what I have to say, even though in the end you might find yourself unable to do me this grand favor. One great ambition of mine since my boyhood days is to be a lawyer, a politician, and a journalist, rolled into one. I cherish politics and journalism as a career, and I desire advocacy as a means of livelihood. For you, sorry, for you will agree with me that a politician or journalist who has no money with which to support himself and family comfortably is like a blade which has no razor. Now, at one time, I was on the verge of making enough money with which I could proceed to England in order to pursue the objects of my ambition. But I suffered a twist in my fortune and I crashed. Ever since, I have tried without success to recover lost grounds financially. But spiritually and intellectually, I have made appreciable advance in spite of towering difficulties, all of which have now been surmounted. As you are aware, I have just passed the Intermediate Bachelor of Commerce examination. Next year, I am taking the final BCom examination and I hope to pass it. But passing the BCom degree is not my goal. I hate to be a government or mercantile employee. Otherwise, there are opportunities of a mercantile establishment. That is the end to my career as a politician and journalist. I have therefore resolved that under no circumstances will I take up such employment. That is just by the way. I am now 34 years of age. After careful thought, I have come to the conclusion that if I could raise a loan free of interest sufficient to cover my expenses, I should go to England this year and within 3 years I should qualify as a barrister at law and also obtain with honours the LLB degree of London University in addition to the BCom degree. The two additional degrees, apart from giving me good backing as a solicitor and advocate, will help me immensely as a politician and journalist. But where on earth could I get the money? Who in Nigeria today could give £1,400 free of interest to help his fellow men? J. Henry Doherty, Esquire, of illustrious memory, who did the like to many successful Nigerians, is no more. But after meticulous searching, sifting, and weighing, I hit upon you. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that out of the bounty with which Providence blesses your grit and effort as a businessman, you can well easily afford to advance such a sum of money. I have no doubt too that as a young and progressive man, you will be quite happy to give me the money for the pursuit of the project for which I desire it. But then, could you take the risk? That is the question. As I have said before, I have no security whatsoever for this loan. Moreover, I want it free of interest, so that you stand to gain absolutely nothing in the whole transaction except the satisfaction that by helping me to achieve my ambition, you are indirectly or even directly helping Nigeria or even Africa. The risk becomes greater when it is borne in mind that I might die in the course of my studies or immediately after, so that since I have no security or surety, you stand the chance of losing not only the money but also the satisfaction which you may cherish that you are contributing to the uplift of Africa. It is indeed a great risk, the greatest any man ever embarks upon. But this is a big but. But if I live, as I have no doubt I will do, you will not only get your money back in full, but you will, to the end of your days, have cause to rejoice that you have done one of the most outstanding and most philanthropic acts any human ever does. Among other things, I shall make excellent use of the money while in England by breaking records in my examinations. On my return to Nigeria, I shall strive to be one of the foremost advocates, politicians, and writers in West Africa. And while I do all this, I shall make it a point not only to pay your money back in full, but also to repay your kindness and generosity towards me in every way I can. All the same, it is a big risk. So, sir, I'd like you to think seriously about it and see if you cannot take it in the interest of a young man who has brains, industry, and determination to back his ambition, but lacks the money. I know we have never been close friends, but I have a shrewd idea that you may take the risk and help me. On this assumption, therefore, I proceed to the last stage of this letter. I'll take that again. I know we have never been close friends, but I have a shrewd idea that you may take the risk and help me. On this assumption, therefore, I proceed to the next and last stage of this letter. I shall not require the whole £1,400 in a lump sum. To start with, you will help me to pay a sum of £208, 13 pence to the Inner Temple. I have already received an application form from this Inn of Court, and from the details forwarded, I gather that this sum of £208, 13 pence will cover all the cost of training as a barrister, examinations fees included. When I am ready to sail, you will advance me a sum of £100 to cover passage, provision for my family, and any other incidental expenses. Note, if I got torpedoed on the way, you will certainly lose this £100, but you will recover the £208 13 pence. For the same time, you will remit to a London bank the sum of £491 69 pence. It is out of this amount that I shall pay the university fees for LLB course and for special courses in political science and journalism when I land in England. That is to say, the initial advance will total £800. At the end of the first year, provided I make satisfactory progress in my studies, you will remit to the same bank a sum of £300. At the end of the second year, you will remit another £300 to the same bank. Out of this £300 per annum, I shall meet all the expenses of living, buy books, pay examination fees, get books for practice when I return, and pay my return passage. The money will remain your property in this London bank, but you will give instruction to the bank to honor all checks from me drawn on this account. There will be an agreement to be signed by me and yourself embodying these conditions. The same agreement will embody the manner of payment of this money by me on my return. On my return, I shall require 2 years within which to establish a solid practice and build a good reputation. After these 2 years, I should commence to pay at least £200 per annum, either in monthly, quarterly, or annual payments, so that in 7 years, after the first 2 years, I should pay back the whole sum of £1,400. That will be 9 years after my return from England, and that will be 12 years from the time you help me to pay the sum of £208, 13 pence. Supposing you help me pay this April or so this year, then I should be due to pay the whole of £1,400 by April 1955. Now, as you yourself will see, this is the farthest limit within which I can pay the money. It may be possible for me to pay the money within 3 or 5 years. I'll take that again. Now, as you yourself will see, this is the farthest limit within which I can pay the money. It may be possible for me to pay the money within 3 to 5 years of my return. As a matter of fact, the sooner I pay it off, the better. But it is much better to be on the safe side in a matter like this. It is no use making promises now which will be difficult of fulfillment in future. On the contrary, it is better to mention a period of 12 years and pay within 6 or 8 years than to mention 5 years and fail to pay within 10 years. Personally, I prefer that I should fail to get the loan under these unattractive but sure conditions rather than succeed in getting it under attractive but precarious conditions. Now, this is all I have to say. You have my request before you and the reasons why I make the request. It is left to you to decide whether it is worth your while to take the risk of helping me in the manner outlined above or not. If you do me the great favor, not only myself and all that are mine, but also God and Africa will be grateful to you forever and ever. If you do not do me the favor, I shall have no cause whatsoever to grumble or to blame you, for the risk is great. Since this is a very selfish request, I enclose herewith a stamped address envelope for a reply to be sent to me under registered cover. With very kind regards, yours sincerely, signed, Obafemi Awolowo. Wow. That's some serious stuff. Let's continue. When after about 6 weeks, I did not receive a reply, I followed the letter up in person. He went there. The result was negative. From that moment, I resolved to fight for the next 5 years, if need be unaided, the long-drawn battle for raising funds to acquire a profession. I had a lot of intimate friends who could help me with small sums, but what they could assemble at that time would even fail. They didn't fall short what was required for paying my enrollment fees to Inner Temple. I got another idea and strove hard for its realization. My efforts were soon rewarded. I was awarded the contract towards the end of 1940 to supply the army units in Lagos, Ibadan, Abeokuta, and Kaduna with yams and yam flour. It was a profitable business. But when I watched that what I had made from this, together with what my close friends were in a position to lend me, was sufficient to sustain me in the United Kingdom for 2 years, as well as pay all the necessary for tuition and examinations. I withdrew from the contract. I was not going to take the risk of losing what I had in the process more. Let me just quickly explain what we're saying here. Let me first say something. If you try to get people to help you and they don't help you, don't worry about it. They're not supposed to feature in your story. There's a lesson I learned years ago, and I remember saying this to my cousin. It's a story from Genesis. Abraham had gone to war, took 300 of them. Times there were more than 300. Went to fight to rescue his nephew, Lot. And after he had done it, after he had rescued him, they took a lot of, spoils of war. And he went with other kings. And so one of those kings reached out to him and said, let's share this booty. And then he said that he had made up his mind not to even take a sandal from this stuff, because it will not be said that you made Abraham rich. I think there are cases in life where some people will not be able to take glory for whatever God does in your life. By the way, that's why I was very quick to also counter when somebody said a Doherty sponsor Papa. Doherty was even dead at this time. But according to what Papa also wrote in this book, the said Doherty apparently helped a lot of people, but he did not. He was already dead by the time Papa was trying to travel in. And this letter was written in 1943. There are certain people that should not be part of your story. So if they say no, it's fine. I think one other lesson that I think I'll probably want us to take away from this particular portion of the story is that every one of us, you must look at God as your source and people as the channels. God will help you. He will use men. If this one refuses to be used, he will find other means. The real problem is when sometimes in life we consider humans as our sources. Like when humans become the source, you are in trouble. Because if they change their mind, then you are done for. And as someone who has worked in the entertainment space and also business space, and who has had to fund stuff, you understand that it can be difficult sometimes to raise funds and also to even get people to help you to achieve your dreams. But if it doesn't happen, it's just that they're along or but anyone kò bá ẹ̀pọ́n olówó ju Darusha lọ kó lówó ju Dangote lọ, tí ò bá ní ràn ẹ́ lọ́wọ́ kò ní ràn ẹ́ lọ́wọ́, tí ò bá dẹ̀ ràn ẹ́ lọ́wọ́ náà kò túmọ̀ sí pé Ọlọ́run gbàgbé ẹ̀. Ọ̀nà míì wà tọ́lọ́run máa lò. Ọlọ́run lè pe èèyàn kan tó jẹ́ pé o ò ní rò. For instance, what if I told you, I mean, I've read it, but think about it. What got Papa to travel to the UK was a lubo, an issue. I've read this thing many times. If you look at my book, it's marked. Like, it's all marked. It makes you think. That letter, I know, I was thinking in my mind, so why did they have to write the letter? And I was like, writing that letter actually says something about you as a person. You are exercising your ability to reason and also your understanding of how life works at that particular point in time. And you're also telling yourself who you are as a person. So that letter may not have done what you expected it to do with the Ogbeni Oja, but has done something to you as a person. You are literally writing down who you are in that letter. And you're also reinforcing the idea that you're going to go along and fulfill that dream. And so even though the money did not come from the man you're expecting, it took yam and elubo to get it done. Which also, we should also learn something. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you get opportunities that you're not looking forward to, which is one of the reasons I hate it. And again, if you know me, I don't use that word, frivolously. I don't like the word hate. But I hate it when people speak to you and all they're talking about is how negative everything is. Oh, Nigeria is bad. Oh, this is wrong. There's a passage in Jeremiah. It says that anyone who puts his trust in man will be like a dry cistern, not like a dry well. It says he will not see good when it comes. In other words, it's not that good is not coming. It's that the person is incapable of seeing good. There are people who spend their life on negativity. No matter the good that is coming their way, they will not see it. I'm saying that to say that whilst you're looking forward to a particular person, don't make anybody your source. it might just be a lubo, and that lubo may not be the kind of thing you're planning for. You may even think you're big for it. After all, you have school, you have gone to school. But maybe Gary, whatever it is, whatever opportunities come your way, please take it, right? And please don't look down on anything and don't be negative. If it doesn't work in one way, oh my, shall not me. So yeah, after all that letter, the Baba said no. Baba even went there to talk to him. He still said no. But guess what? Another opportunity came, and was able to get a contract to sell yam and yam flour to the army installations in Lagos, Ibadan, Abeokuta, and Kaduna.